Hello again, fellow Beachbum traders. We hope that you had a great trading week last week. We hope that you found our weekly game plan from last week helpful to you in your trading. Please let us know if you found our weekly game plan from last week helpful to you in the comments below. And please let us know how your trading went this week. Good or bad, what did you learn? How can we improve our weekly game plans to help you succeed in your trading? Now let's get started preparing our game plan for next week. Hello again, fellow Beachbum traders. We hope you survived round one of Mr. Market's wild ride without too many bumps and bruises. And we hope you're ready to get prepared for round two on Mr. Market's wild ride this week. We'll talk about what happened last week, some of the upcoming events, some major upcoming events for this week, and we'll look at how you can use the volatility that we're seeing to your benefit, make volatility your friend, as well as the sector rotations. If you've been keeping up with what they've been saying on CNBC, etc. lately, you'll hear that this type of activity is not uncommon for August and September. Tend to be more volatile months. These types of sector rotations are typical, and that's kind of what we can expect, but we can benefit from it. So this week, in preparing our weekly game plan, I'd like to show you again how you can insulate yourself from some of the volatility if you'd prefer, if you're more of a more passive trader, and benefit from it. So we'll start out, we'll just look at the markets, how they did during the week, and then we'll look at the sectors, etc., and prepare our game plan for next week. So I'm in the home page of finviz.com right now. We can see all the indexes bounce back up on Friday. In a minute we'll see that the big news, the big excitement on Friday was the rebound in the Russell 2000. But all the indexes did rebound on Friday. We could see there were more advancers than decliners on Friday, although that was not true for the previous couple days. We could see in the heat map, this was a trend I was seeing all week, is what they call a flight to quality we were seeing this week, and we'll talk about that more as well in the bond prices, my hypothesis in that area. But we saw a lot of the FANGs, the big tech, collect a lot of money, and again I think that's part of the flight to quality. People earlier in the week were dumping the small caps and flying into the FANG stocks and other what they call safety or quality stocks. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. You'll see in the news, they're expecting another bumpy ride. The big news for this upcoming week is that August 26th through the 28th is the Fed's Jackson Hole meeting, which again, because of COVID, now they're going to be doing virtually. Part of the volatility this week was caused by the Fed starting to talk about a tapering plan, but then the retail sales came out and that may have deferred that tapering. So it'll be very interesting to hear what the Fed says coming out of Jackson Hole, what their plan is for tapering, and we'll talk about how we can prep for that event on the 26th through the 28th. So next we'll take a look at the futures, and then we'll dive into the charts of some of the indexes and sectors. So now let's take a quick look at the futures tab in FinViz. And finviz.com, for which you can find an affiliate link in the description box below if you just go to the futures tab. We can see the futures for the indices at the top, and we can see all the indices rebounded nicely at the end of the week after dipping for 3 days sequentially. So got a nice rebound. all headed back up. The Nasdaq is again approaching its all-time high, and we'll talk about that. And again, the big news was the big rebound in the Russell. The Russell was dumping pretty severely, and it rebounded nicely on Friday. We'll also talk about the VIX. You can see the VIX made a major jump up, and we'll look at that in more detail, and kind of peaked below the 24 level. Talk about how to play long and short on the VIX and the fact that it tends to mean revert. And then it's declining. It was declining pretty steadily on Friday. We'll look at each of these in detail. So what I've done is in Webull, I have created a watch list that contains the major indices and a number of leveraged ETFs that you can play the indices and some other commodities and things we'll look at in the futures, either long or short. And that's one of the key takeaways I hope that you'll get from this weekly game plan, and we'll do some future videos about how to use leveraged ETFs. You can play either direction of the index, and that's why I said is volatility can be your friend. You don't have to fear these market crashes, etc. In fact, you can profit from them by playing the index short with a leveraged ETF. It can be more profitable than riding the index up. They say, indexes take a escalator up or a staircase up and an elevator down. So they tend to go up slow and come down fast. So that's how it is. So I'm in the stocks chart in Webull, and I brought up that watch list, and we have a video coming out very soon about how to create a watch list in Webull using actually this watch list, and how to add symbols to it, etc. Again, they'll be coming out soon. You can find our affiliate link to Webull in the description box below. Get 2 free stocks or more. Sometimes they do even better promotions, so you get more than 2 free stocks. We like Webull. This is the browser version of Webull, and I'm looking at the VIX, and what we see is on Tuesday, I guess it was, early Tuesday morning, the VIX tends to jump at 4 a.m. I'm typically up just to see the 4 a.m. Webull open, because things tend to gap up or down right at that 4 a.m. Webull open. So we saw a gap up, and we saw another gap up on Thursday, peaked, and then on Friday it started trailing off. We were long UVXY, which is the leveraged ETF to play long or bullish on the VIX. We cashed out of that at peak level, and we were looking at the SVXY, which is the short of the VIX. I was looking for it potentially to break this 24 level and go up to the 40 level and peak very quickly, at which point I would have shorted the VIX with SVXY. It didn't do that, so we didn't short the VIX. Now it's in mean reversion mode. If it gets down to the 16 level area before the Jackson Hole meeting on the 26th, we will probably again long the VIX using the UVXY leveraged ETF. If it happens to look like it's going to spike, which it might do during the Jackson Hole meetings, again we'll be looking for that spike. Use the SVXY leveraged ETF to short the VIX coming down. You have to act fast. These guys move fast, and when it spikes, the spike probably won't last very long. So you do have to act pretty quickly to short the VIX. But again, this is why volatility can be your friend. You can use those leveraged ETFs to long and short the VIX and profit on it. So don't have to fear the volatility. You can profit from it. So if we just quickly, while we're here, look at the major indexes and how they look during the week, they all look very similar. They were downtrending through Wednesday. Thursday kind of flat. End of the week, they all rebounded a little bit. The Dow So the symbol for the Dow is DIA. The symbol for this S&P Spider is SPY. Again, we can see it downtrended through Wednesday, flat, and then rebounded on Friday. The NASDAQ is QQQ, very similar. However, we can see it's approaching its all-time high. Now, we will be watching, I probably won't put it on the watch list, but we will be watching the TQQQ if the NASDAQ peaks again, hits its all-time high. We will probably go short the VIX using TQQQ. Last week we were shorting both the SPY and the Dow, using the Dow as SDOW, and the SPY short is SPXU, and we cashed those out on these declines. Please keep an eye on the comments for these weekly test plans. You'll see I posted when we went long those leveraged ETFs, as well as add or make changes to our watch list during the week. So on a daily basis, if we're making changes, I'll post that in the comments. Please keep an eye on the comments to this video, and then you'll see our daily changes. So next we'll go back to the futures and we'll look at some commodities, treasuries, etc. Wanted to just briefly revisit the activity in the Russell 2000 on Friday and how we are looking at a strategy for that. Again, the symbol for the sector spider or the index spider for the Russell 2000 is IWM. And we can see it was in decline pretty severely through Thursday. Gap down at the beginning of Friday, but then made a nice run through Friday, peaked probably mid-Friday, around noon. We saw this, this trending up, this run up. It broke resistance. I was really tempted to long the Russell at that point, which the ETF to long the Russell is URTY. Conversely, the ETF to short the Russell is SRTY. And there's a couple reasons that I wanted to share why I didn't. Number one, if we go to the longer term chart in FinViz and we do a search for IWM, we could see it didn't quite reach that 210 support level. It was in a severe downtrend, didn't quite reach that, kind of dojied, then made a nice rebound. But it could well be still in a pretty severe downtrend. Watch that 210 level. If it breaks down through that 210 level, we could really see some a dump in the Russell. You can also see it doesn't have a whole lot of range up to its all-time highs around 230, and so it's got a pivot point or a multiple top around 230. So there isn't a whole lot of reward to longing the Russell at this point, and there's a lot of risk. So that was one of the reasons I didn't long the Russell on Friday. That, and it's a Friday. Fridays, a lot of things can happen over the weekend. There's a lot of concerns over the Delta variant. They're closing down shipping ports in China. I think manufacturing and shipping ports in Vietnam. There's going to be major disruptions to the supply chain. I don't think that has sunk in completely yet. And so there's a potential for some downside really in all the indexes, but I was concerned holding it over Friday, holding along over Friday. The third reason is Friday was an options expiration date. You will hear some traders will call it OPEX, that's short or an acronym for options expiration date. And on OPEX dates, on options expiration dates, it's always a Friday for the monthly options. And I'm showing you the calendar for the CBOE. This is the official options expiration calendar, and I'll put a link to this calendar in the description box below, so you can refer back to it whenever you want. But another thing that happens on options expiration is they tend to have a tug of war. The people that are long the calls, have bought the calls, want to pull the price up above the strike price for the call so that they get assigned those options. They get to buy them at the strike price. And the people that sold those calls want to pull the price just below that strike price so that it expires worthless. So again, on these OPEX dates, you tend to see more volatility. And again, you tend to see a tug of war around key price levels, strike prices, which tend to be whole dollar, half dollar prices. So again, for those reasons, I didn't take any action on IWM on Friday. We're going to keep a close eye on it, see how it handles this support level, and then go from there. But again, I'm not too excited about it because right now it doesn't have a lot of range. If it comes down a lot further, then a long would be worth more in IWM. So I hope that helps. Now we'll go back and we'll take a look at some of the other commodities, treasuries, etc. in the futures. Okay, now let's look at and talk about some strategies we might want to take advantage of in some of the commodities. You see all of the oil futures were way down, dipped way down all this week and are still headed down. In a minute we'll talk about some of the ways we might want to be able to play a rebound in the oil sector. We also see that the energy sector, if we go over to the sector spider tracker, which I'll leave a link in the description box below, we can see the energy sector was the biggest decliner for this week. It also pulled down uranium. We went long uranium miner called DNN. It's a small cap uranium miner. I think that was pulled down from the decline in oil and therefore the energy sector. So I think there's still an opportunity if you're interested in going long DNN. There might be an opportunity there. So again, we'll talk about how we want to play a rebound in the oil sector in a minute. Gold looks like it might be forming a bull flag. I believe we mentioned that we are long GLDI, which is a monthly dividend paying gold ETF. We're also long silver, which is SLVO, which is a monthly dividend paying ETF on silver. I also wanted to show you a tip on some of these futures charts. So as we see copper kind of bottomed and then rebounded on Friday. However, if you click on this copper chart and we look at it in more detail, we'll see, although in this chart it looks like copper is at a bottom, if we look at a longer term chart, we can see, yeah, it's at a relative support level, but it's still a long way up from its historical lows. So that's I found that a helpful tip in deciding, is it really the time to buy copper? Does it have a lot more downside? You can see the risk to the downside is significantly more than the upside potential, although there's still an opportunity here. Although again, all of the commodities are suffering from concern over global growth, shutdown due to the Delta virus, shutdown of ports, etc. China is the biggest commodity purchaser in the world, and when China growth slows, the commodities tend to get hit. So similarly, we see all of the metals miners got hit. Briefly look at the treasuries. We can see prices on the treasuries, particularly the 30, were up higher, reaching a peak, and we'll look at the treasury ETF to short the price or long the yield, which is TMB. We're going to be watching TMB for a bottom this week, particularly going into the Jackson Hole meeting. This behavior I found a little bit perplexing at first because if the Fed's talking about tapering, they're going to reduce their buying, and one would think that a reduction in demand would reduce the price. My hypothesis in the Treasuries is that although the Fed's talking about tapering and reducing that demand, the concerns and the decline in the stocks had a tendency for money managers to flee equities or stocks and move their money into bonds, which then increases the demand in bonds and therefore increases the price. So I believe my hypothesis is that this short-term price action in Treasuries was caused by the decline in the market indices, the flight of money market managers out of stocks into bonds, and therefore the short-term increase in the price in bonds. Therefore, I think there's an opportunity in shorting the Treasuries using that TMB. So we'll talk about that in more detail in a minute. So let's talk about a strategy for playing the bottom of oil and potential rebound in oil. One of the ETFs, this is USOI. This is an ETF that pays a very nice monthly dividend. You can see it pays a dividend of 23.23%, and it pays monthly. It's very similar. It's a Credit Suisse ETN like GLDI on gold and SLVO on silver, which we hold both of those. And you can see USOI is approaching a bottom around 460. So we are closely watching that to see if it bounces off this support level, which would be a buying opportunity on USOI. That's one we would just buy and hold because of the monthly dividend that it pays. Now it just paid out on the ex-dividend date was August 19th. So you'd have to hold it for a month to get the dividend, but it could be pretty attractive. You can see it's got a double top around 540, so if it were to top out, we might sell and wait for it to come back down and buy it again. So a couple other ETFs that you can play oil this is our ETF watch list in Webull that we saw earlier, and there are two other ETFs. One is Gush, which is a bit bullish ETF or long ETF on gold, oil going up, and you can see it kind of bottomed and then went flat. So we'll keep an eye on that. If you want to play long oil long, you can buy Gush. It's a leveraged ETF on long oil. When oil peaks and you want to short oil, the corresponding ETF is DRIP. So let's also look at the Treasuries. So you can see they're the inverse chart. So this is the top going down, Gush bottom going up. You can play oil either way, both ways. If we look at the Treasuries, the iShares on the 20-year Treasury is TLT. This is probably the most popular one people watch on the Treasuries. And we can see it's kind of reaching a top. So, as we mentioned, we might be looking at shorting the TMB, particularly due to the reduction in demand due to the Fed tapering, which they may or may not announce at the Jackson Hole meeting starting on the 26th. We would be playing TMB. So if we look in the ETF watch list for TMB, we're going to be watching for a bottom in TMB and a turn up, at which point we would be long TMB, shorting the price of the Treasuries, longing the yield on the Treasuries. So we hope that helps, and we'll look at more detail in a minute. I wanted to briefly show you all what looks like a new look and feel for the ARK Invest daily trade information emails that we receive. And if you would like to receive this information of what ARK Invest is buying and selling on a daily basis, You can see our previous video that we developed showing you how to get those email notifications and also how to look up ARK Invest's current holdings. I'll leave a link to the previous video on how you can get the daily trade information from ARK Invest in the description box below, and also you can find it in our ARK Invest playlist. You can see it looks like they went to an HTML format broken down by their ETF, so we can see the first listed table. It's in table form, and you can see it's highlighting the buys and sells in red and green, which I kind of like. Seems helpful, easier to read. So in a quick scan of their buys and sells for Friday, August 20th, I didn't see anything terribly interesting, so I'm just going to scroll down real quickly and show you how it's broken down by the various ETFs. There's ARK-K, their innovation, ARK-Q, I believe is their internet. One thing I wanted to point out that we'll see in a couple of these ETFs is they've been buying Palantir, and they continue to buy Palantir. I don't know if you all saw the news from late last week that came out that says Palantir is buying gold bars as a hedge against a black swan event. It also said they were investing in Bitcoin, again as a hedge against a black swan event. We applauded this news because we have been and continue to be long both gold and silver. We hold a number of gold miners, as well as the GLDI Credit Suisse ETF for gold and the SLVO Credit Suisse ETF for silver. Again, we see that as people will be hedging against both black swan events, as this article highlights, as well as inflation. There's been talk of increased inflation for quite some time. So if Palantir and others are seeing gold and silver as a good hedge against black swan events or inflation, we should see a recovery eventually in gold and silver. It looks like gold had started a recovery, silver is lagging a little bit, but again, we agree it's a good hedge against both black swan events and inflation. So if we just quickly go through ARK Invest buys and sells, we'll also see it looks like Kathy's investing in a number of, it looks like new SPACs. You'll see a number of holding companies, acquisition companies. Not terribly interested in pursuing new SPACs. I don't really know what they're looking at buying. And again, those are long-term holds or long-term investments, as they have a 5-year time horizon. Not something that we're particularly interested in, but it might be something for you. Again, we see Palantir UiPath. So really, I just wanted to show you the new format. It's broken down by ETF, kind of easy to read. The reds and greens for the buys and sells, I think, makes it easier to read. And again, if you want to know how to get this information yourself, you can see our previous video. Leave a description link below, or you can see our ARK Invest playlist. I didn't see a new posting this week from AC Investor blog. I will leave a link in the description box below as to how you can access that information. Use that to add to the watch list. And next we'll look at individual stocks and ETFs that we currently have on our watch list. But I also wanted to again reiterate that during the course of the week we will be adding to we'll be reevaluating on a daily basis, and if we find anything new, we'll be adding comments to the weekly game plan, so please keep an eye on the comments. If you find anything that you want to share with the Beachbum trading community, that would be great. Please add it to the comments of the game plan below. So next, we'll take a look at individual stocks that we have on our watch list and ETFs, and we'll wrap up our game plan. Okay, if we just briefly look at the Markets tab in Webull, if you click on Markets in Webull, we can just quickly see how things wrapped up on Friday and see if there's any trends or themes that we might want to focus on for next week. You can see, general information at the top. Another feature I wanted to point out to you all is the calendar feature. You can select IPOs. I like to focus on the earnings calendar. We can see who's got upcoming earnings, dividends, splits, etc. We should be nearing the end of this earnings reporting season, so I don't know of anything that would impact us at this time. We can see VVPR, but we'll see in the comments in last week's game plan that we're removing VVPR from the watch list because it failed to hold support and didn't seem to be forming another good support. So that one's off, so I'm not concerned about that. We can look at the after hours top gainers and losers very quickly from Friday to see if we see any themes or focus areas that we see some energy. It seems to be a mix. We look at the top losers. Again, I don't see a strong theme. It's some biotech, some energy, nothing a strong theme, either gainers or losers from after hours on Friday. So if we then look at the best performing industries from Friday, it's a little interesting because it seems to be focused on energy. So the top performing industries, coal, which is really an energy in general, uranium, again, energy. We'll talk about DNN. Again, we took a position in DNN. There may still be an opportunity. I'll show you the chart in DNN if you're interested in taking a position in DNN yourself. May still be an opportunity there. And then renewable, solar, etc. So that energy seems to be a theme from Friday. So now let's take a look at our watch list, the individual symbols on our watch list for next week. And again, we've got a video coming out very soon on how you can create and populate your watch list in Webull. So please subscribe, hit the notify so you get automatically notified when that video comes out. Hopefully that will help you. So as I mentioned, we do have a position in DNN, but which is a uranium miner, small uranium miner. But I wanted to just show you the chart that there may still be an opportunity to get in. It dipped below and then kind of leveled out. So you may, when it breaks out of that resistance area or bounces off that pivot, may be an opportunity for you if you're interested. We're already in DNN. You'll see in the comments from last week we added DTST, which is a small data storage company. I believe they're barely profitable. Something I want to mention is going forward right now with the flight to quality, instability in the market, potential for downside in the market. We're trying to stay towards companies that are profitable. They have plenty of cash. If they're trading below cash, that's even better. But we're staying away from, highly unprofitable, long-term growth type companies that may be at higher risk if we have a downturn in the market, a bearish market, inflation, higher yields, etc. So right now we're trying to focus on, again, the flight to quality, value stocks, things that can survive a downturn if we need to. So DTST, like I said, nominally profitable. Anywhere where it finds a good support and starts to turn up would be good. I think we're targeting, here's the bottom. Originally 375 was a support level as well. So we talked about how to play volatility earlier. So just to show you, we've got the bullish volatility ETF, which is UVXY. So if that bottoms and turns up, we would be looking to long volatility again, particularly in preparation for the Jackson Hole meeting on the 26th. So we're looking for a bottom prior to that so we can long volatility going into Jackson Hole. If we get a pop in volatility, obviously then we would cash that out, and then we would looking for a peak in the bearish ETF on volatility, which is SVXY. Look for that peak, short volatility, wait for it to come back down, cash that one out. So those are the two ETFs to play for volatility, UVXY, SVXY, as we mentioned before. We're also looking at a bottom in the bearish ETF on the 20-year Treasuries. It's bearish on price, bullish on yield, TMB. So again, going into Jackson Hole, if they talk about tapering, that would be a reduction in their buying, potentially a reduction in demand, and therefore potentially a drop in price. So if TMB bottoms going into Jackson Hole, we're looking to long TMB. We also talked about that the NASDAQ was approaching all-time high again. So if the ETF to short the NASDAQ is TQQQ. So if TQQQ peaks or the NASDAQ hits a new all-time high, we would be looking to short the NASDAQ or go long TQQQ. Finally, I believe we talked earlier about the fact that oil has been declining. We're looking for a bottom in oil. The Credit Suisse ETF that pays monthly dividend in oil is USOI. Oil may continue to decline for some time, particularly if demand from China, from reopening continues to decline. So we're just waiting for a bottom in oil and an upturn, and then we would go long USOI. That may not happen this week, but I just wanted to make you aware. We do have a current price target bottom around 460. That seems to be a support level. So if it approaches that and turns, that might be a place to get in. It may, as I mentioned, continue to decline and break through that support, and we'd look for it to form a new one. Another EV renewable energy type of theme is graphite for EV batteries. A small miner in graphite is WWR. We've played WWR a number of times, had it on the watch list several times. It tends to move on occasion, so when it bottoms and turns, we'd be looking for an opportunity in WWR. And again, sometimes it will start to move rather quickly, so it's one you want to keep an eye on once you're in. Look for a spike, possibly put a high sell out at a resistance level, or trail it with a stop, so that you can benefit from increases in prices in WWR. So those are symbols that I wanted to point out to you. You can add them to your watch list. Again, as we reevaluate on a daily basis, we will add to the comments under this watch list video so you can keep up with any changes. We hope this all helps. We hope you survive and do well in Mr. Market's Wild Ride this week. Please put in the comments anything you'd like to add, see more of, improvements to these game plans, your insights, your watch lists for this week. That would be great to share with the Beachbum trading community. And we wish you great luck this week and have a great trading week. Bye. hope that you like our weekly game plan for the trading week for this week. Thank you for watching the video to the end. If you found this helpful, we hope that you will choose to subscribe to our Beachbum Trading YouTube channel. And please click the bell icon below to automatically be notified whenever we publish a new video. Please also share this with your fellow traders and friends via the share button included below. And let us know if you found our weekly game plans helpful in the comments included below. And let us know how we can improve. What would you like to see more, less of, etc. Thank you again for watching. Good luck and have a great trading week.